Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video we're going to do our tops, chops, traps and slaps for SuperCoach round 3. So for those who missed the video last week, how it works is we look at some popular trade in, trade out options, and if we're trading them in and it seems like it's a good option, we give it the thumbs up. That's tops. If it's a good option to trade out, well, we're going to give them the chop. If they're being traded in but we're a bit sketchy on the pick, we'll potential there for them to be a trap. And if we're trading someone out that we really shouldn't, well then we're going to give ourselves a slap and wake up to ourselves. So we'll go through each position. We'll start with hooker as usual. And so I guess a bit of a 180 from myself here. Last week I had him as a trap, but Joey Lussick proved me wrong. Played essentially 80 minutes, and he's the only hooker named in the 17 this week. So looks like he's a man of his word, Brad Arthur, and he is looking to play an 80-minute hooker. So for that reason, I've got the best buy on Lussick this week. Obviously, his price is about to take off. I guess who you trade him in for is debatable, and we'll cover a couple of those options in a bit. But I guess obviously because he's now dropped from the 17 altogether, if you've still got Brendan Hands, he is one that we need to chop. He's not playing. There is a couple of options that are making money at the moment, so we can easily sideways to one of them and use the get some cash generation going. On the trap for this week, I've gone Havili. Saliva Havili, that's what I was trying to say. I couldn't get his first name out properly. From the Rabbitohs. So, scored well on the weekend, and people might look at his dual position and his break even and go, oh, it's a cheeky little pod. But the reality is he's not going to score a try every week. He's mostly there as like a middle forward, sort of like a ball playing lock type role. So don't expect those sorts of scores every week. And there is better options at the position. And then I guess controversially for the slap, I've gone with Danny Levi, even though I'm probably going to trade out Danny Levi to bring in Joey Lussick. So, I think they're both going to make money. So I think the two sort of people that I wouldn't suggest trading out are Harry Grant and Danny Levi. There is an argument maybe Api Coruscant if you started with him. Jeremy Marshall King on the buy is probably another one that could fit in the slap category. But outside of that, I think it makes sense to trade out for Joey Lussick. But I'm one of those people who has Grant and Levi. So I think, in the short to medium term, Lussick is going to make more cash, score more points. So now is the time to do it. But definitely, consider all your options before you just, trade your backup hooker in Levi, who is going to make money in his own right, and is probably the preferred 9 for Ricky Stewart. Just has been unfortunate or unlucky with injuries. But I can't begrudge anyone who does trade him out. But I had to nominate someone, and he seemed, the silliest candidate to trade out. But I'm still going to do it. So just forewarning for the preview video that comes out tomorrow is you'll probably see that trade. In the front row, so once again I've got Terrell May as the top trade-in option this week. He proved why he was such a popular option last week. My best buy. I brought him into my team, and he did reward me. So if you haven't got him, get on this week. His price will go up, and you may miss the boat quite quickly in a position where you don't want to be spending too much time and money on trades. On the chopping block, not the most popular option, but those who have James Fisher Harris could chop him. I guess the news came out earlier today, and I didn't sort of edit it or think about it till now. But Payne Haas is out, so he could sit either as a chop or a slap, just depending on how how long that timeline is for his injury. But there's not enough news at the moment, so I thought I'd just go with what I'd prepared last night, and that was James Fisher Harris. He is out for a bit. Uh, you know, there's options like May. If you can go up to one of the keepers, you go there. So I think if you do have Fisher Harris, he's an easy trade out. But again, I know he's not the most popular player in the game. Just had to find someone. uh, on the trap list, I've gone with Davey Moali from the Rabbitohs, so a bit of a recurring theme here. Um, again, it scored his first NRL try, but and named to start this week as well, which sort of adds to his appeal. But he won't score a try every week. He's not known for playing big minutes. Um, Maybe in the South Shake-up he could end up getting a few more minutes. They might sort of see what he's capable of, but I think Terrell May's a better option at not that much more money. Or you could go down to a Liam Henry perhaps if you don't have him. With Fisher Harris out, he could get more minutes in that middle rotation. And the slap. So again, I'm not 100% sure on Payne Haas and what his long term injury forecast is, but I'll put Joey Tarpany here. So a couple of underwhelming performances from Joey in the first two rounds, and people are looking to jump off. But keep the faith. He probably is. After the big three of Haas, Tino, Fanua Blake, he probably is the next best prop in the game. And for Supercoach purposes, that is arguably, one of the best props in the NRL game. So for that reason, I think if you've got him, you probably hold. I can see the appeal of going him to May again, like similar to the hooker conversation. But I'd try and find another way of getting May in if I had Tarpany. Onto the second row, and the top trade in this week, in my opinion, is Morgan Smithies. So I guess he's got the third game at lock. Played 80 minutes last week, which is an awesome sign that he can handle big minutes and big workloads in the NRL. So you'd imagine next week when Horsburgh comes back, he will slot in to the second row. Sorry, the front row rotation. We're talking about second rows. That's where I got that from. But yeah, it's all looking very good for Smithies. And also, I guess with the return of Elliot Whitehead, there's one less middle forward on the bench, which I think only benefits Smithies even more. So if you don't have him, he almost had the best buy until Joey Lussick got the 80-minute role. And so for that reason, I've got him as the top pick this week. The chopping block, I think obviously Heel and Lukey, out to 6 to 8 weeks. So I guess maybe, after Smithies, probably Finny Fuiaki would have been in the conversation for top pick this week. Um, obviously we can't trade everyone in. But yeah, that's a nice easy swap if you just wanted to swap Lukey to Finny Fuiaki, bank 100 or almost 200k, and obviously use that money elsewhere. The trap this week, I've gone with Zach Hosking, and again, this is one where I'm seriously considering going against my own advice. He will make a lot of money this week, even though he is named to come off the bench, and he might, play 30 minutes. It might be in the middle, it might be on the edge, and Hudson Young might slide in, or I don't really know how that's going to work. So I think, he's only a trap in the sense if you're wanting him to play on field, but I could definitely see a situation, and this is what I'm leaning towards, of picking him up this week, grabbing his 90, 100k, whatever he's going to make this week, and then moving him to Finny Fuiaki, who might make, 30, 40k this week. You bank the extra 60k. It is going to cost you an extra trade, so you have to really balance up essentially how much a trade is worth to you. Um, but realistically, even if he was named to start, Hoskins wasn't going to keep pumping out hundreds. Um, you definitely take the money that's on offer. But now he's on the bench, you definitely have to consider how much a trade is worth. So I guess that's why he's the trap of the week. Is it's a big conversation piece. But as I said, I'm seriously considering trading him in. So this isn't going too well. But I guess you've got to come up with some big calls, and these are the ones that I've come up with. And speaking of which, the slap this week, and maybe this is a bit of a personal one, but I would definitely recommend keeping Viliami Kikau. Graham Annesley came out, the head of the referees, and said that he was, robbed of a try last week. There was no way known that Braden Trindle was going to stop him, and that it did set an ugly precedent for players essentially hiding behind the ref or touching the ref and saying they were impacted. So I think, you add that 30 points for the line break, the try, the tackle breaks of the blokes hanging off of him as he fell over the line. Um, and he's got a 70-point game, and we're all cheering as owners. So, he's just been super unlucky. Week one, it was just the Dogs couldn't hang on to the ball long enough. But when they got a bit of attack, he put on an assist for Crichton. As I said, lost out on a try. He has that upside. The Dogs play the Titans this week as well. So, I saw they were favourites with Sportsbet, which based on their first two performances is debatable, but I think they can do the job. So I'm happy to say they're favourites, and I would definitely consider holding Viliami kick out if you do have him. Onto the halfbacks, and so I guess another U-turn from myself. Last week I had Luke Brooks as the trap or the sort of avoid option, but I've got him as the tops pick this week. So just looks like he's freed up a bit at Manly with DCE running the show. Luke Brooks can essentially just do what he wants, and he's fitting in really well. Um, so if you are looking for a halves option, because I guess he can also play 5'8", and probably would have been tops in the 5'8" slot as well if I didn't want to. If I wanted to potentially, have dual position players like that, but I'll try and talk about like as many players as possible. So Luke Brooks gets the nod for the halfback slot. On the chopping block, I've got Braden Trindle. So he was one I initially flirted with in pre-season, given he had a bit of a built-in sort of value in him because he did play some games off the bench last year and get like 3 minutes. So obviously they were involved in his average, which his price was based on. But he scored 27 on the weekend with a try included. So what that says to me is that, with Nico Hines in the side, he doesn't get the goal kicking. He's not the main, creative outlet for the Sharks. So his upside is very limited. Once Hines is injured, he could come back into the conversation. I say once, like it's going to happen if Hines was injured, I should say. Then he could come back in the conversation, but I think if you had Trindle again in halfback or 5'8", he's one you have to get out of. On the trap list, I've got Chad Townsend from the Cowboys. So I guess a nice solid performance on the weekend. He's got a nice low price, which is nice for his break even, but he's never been super coach relevant. Even when he was at the Sharks winning premierships, he wasn't in the conversation for our halfback slot. He is very much an organizer in the mould of Adam Reynolds, but doesn't even kick goals. Val Holmes kicks goals for the Cowboys. So for that reason, I would strongly reconsider trading in Chad Townsend. And on the slap list, I've gone with Sean Johnson. So a bit in line with our conversation last week with Cleary and Hines. You brought these guys in for a reason. They're proven performers. The Warriors have had a couple of tough matchups in the first 2 weeks, so keep the faith with SJ and Holt. If you were looking to say maybe upgrading to Cleary or Hines, there's definitely an argument for that. But at the same time, they're losing cash too. So it's not a sort of argument that I'd be having. I'd be waiting for more data, in which case you're hanging on to SJ. Onto the 5/8s, and again another reoccurring top pick this week with Luke Metcalf. So went really well again on the weekend, um, and I guess it looks like the best option. Definitely won't be the best option next week. In I guess what is not really a spoiler alert because we all know what's coming from the Tigers in round four. At least we think we know. Can't tell the future, but the way things are looking, it's a pretty obvious choice. But in saying that, I think if you need a 5/8 this week, Metcalf is your man. On the chopping block, I've gone with Ezra Mam. So a second underwhelming performance from Mam. Under a bit of an injury cloud as well. There's been a bit of talk about Tristan Saylor might play on Thursday night. Um, so for that reason, we can comfortably get out of Ezra Mam. You can go with Metcalf, or you can go with the Tigers 5/8, who we'll talk about more next week. But yeah, definitely, I think Mam is one that you can use to improve your team elsewhere. On the trap list, I've gone with Tyron Wishart. So cheap, playing. I think he's named in the seven for the Storm this week, covering for Jerome Hughes. But it's only going to be for the 2 weeks, and then Hughes will come back in. Wishart will go back to his bench role where he comes on in the last 10 minutes and scores 5 points. And, he'll be stuck with a little bit of cash gen. But again, it's probably a waste of two trades. So if you're looking at Wishart as a way of making money this week, look elsewhere. And the trap this week, I've gone with Kyle Flanagan. So not that I think it's a bad option to trade him out, but I think what you could do is wait a week and then trade him out for Galvin. There it is, I said it. Trade him out for Galvin. He'll make a bit of money this week. It's not going to be, a game changing amount of money, but it will be something that you can bank and go to the bottom dollar option and then use that money elsewhere. So if you're trading out Flanagan, give him one more week, and then he'll firmly be on the chopping block, I believe. Into the centre wing spot, and not a lot I was interested in this week, but I guess the best option around is Xavier Savage. So his scores are boosted by attacking stats. So, if he doesn't get a try or a try assist, he does have a very limited floor. But, he will make a bit of money this week and has the job security. And I guess that's one of the reasons why he has been touted is he is an attacking threat. So potentially the tries could keep coming. But he is that awkward price, about 350k. Um, there is that limited sort of cap in terms of his cash generation because of his poor floor. But if you are looking for a centre wing option this week, he's probably the pick of the bunch. On the chopping block, we've got Greg Marzu, so obviously the most expensive centre wing in the game. But two poor scores means that he has got a massive break even. And also, he's not playing this week because of a wrist injury. So, I'd absolutely recommend chopping him, getting an option that's playing this week. And then, if you want to get him back in later in the season when his price dips, you could absolutely get on. The trap this week, I've gone with Ronaldo Mulatalo. So I guess, a similar profile to Xavier Savage in that he's a real rocks and diamonds kind of player. Low floor but decent ceiling. And obviously he's hit that ceiling in the last couple of weeks. So, I can see people getting on as a bit of a cash grab, similar to Hoskins, but with more job security. But unlike Hoskins, he doesn't have that sort of floor. You know, when he's on the field for 80 minutes. So, yeah, I can see why people would do it, but I would, suggest that you don't trade in Ronaldo this week. And on the slap list, I've gone with Joey Manu. So I guess a few people might be again looking at his high break even and thinking, oh, I can use that money better elsewhere. But he's a proven gun. We saw in Vegas what he's capable of. So don't let one down game, sort of sway you. Joe Manu is one that if you brought him in, you'd probably keep him for the season. And on to the fullbacks. So I guess the top pick this week is James Tedesco. So, another great return from Teddy. And, you don't really realise till you look at it a bit closer. He's only about 50K more expensive than Ryan Pappenhausen, who, everyone is keen on. So, he would have been the obvious candidate for the top pick this week, given his massive score last weekend. But I think Teddy's a bit more consistent. Um, and it's a nice little point of difference too, which I think is something that you can go for a bit more at the fullback position, given there's so many great options. On the chopping block, I've gone with Kalen Ponga, so one that could have easily gone into the slap category, but I just think with his massive break even and the Knights' slowish start to the year, I'm seriously considering doing the Teddy to Ponga trades. This might be just myself talking myself into it. He might be one I have to give myself an uppercut for. But I guess I was a bit scared about, Ponga getting away from me at the start of the season. But I'm not scared anymore. So, once he starts to show form, then I'll make moves to get Ponga back in. But I think I've got to be a bit aggressive in chasing value at the start of the year and really trying to build the squad up as quickly as possible to try and make up those spots that we lost from our terrible round one performance. On the trap this week, I've gone with Tane Tuapiki from the Warriors. So he's named to play his third game. He's going to make some cash. I know most people have him in the centre wing, but he is fullback eligible, so he qualifies for this list. But Charles Nickel Clockstad is not that far away. So if you didn't start with him, I don't think he's a trade in because, he will have to be a trade out in a couple of weeks' time. And then on the trap list, as I said, I could have Ponga in both, and there's arguments for chopping him or, the slap. Keeping him. But I thought I put Scott Drinkwater in there. So I think a lot of people who started with Drinkwater, he has the upside, but also he has the really favourable draw. He doesn't have a buy until round 16. You imagine he wouldn't play Origin. I know he's in the fringes and in conversations, but you know you've got to get through Teddy, you've got to get through Turbo, you've got to get through the Trell. So I think he is that player that you picked, and in the line with the Sean Johnson, we've talked about a Joe Tarpany. You've picked them as a point of difference, so don't necessarily give up on them just because they have started a bit slow. Um, it sounds like hypocritical when I talk about Ponga, but I think Ponga doesn't offer as much value as Drinkwater, which is why I've lent towards chopping him and trying to keep onto the likes of Drinkwater. But that wraps up our tops, chops, slaps, and traps, or traps and slaps even, for this week. Obviously, if you've got any strong opinions or thoughts, feel free to comment below this video. If you enjoy the analysis, let me know with a like. If you enjoy all of the fantasy content, remember to subscribe to see all the videos as they come out. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.